Hello everyone. Today I thought that I would talk to you about some new products from Chantecaille that I have been actually really enjoying. So in the past I have tried a number of products from Chantecaille and I did not have very good luck with most of these. I found that many of the products were irritating to my skin and that many of them did have ingredients in them that were especially problematic. And in addition, I wasn't always sure that I thought the products were performing all that well, especially considering the high price. But they have come out with a few new products, and there is a Blue Mercury store that I have been visiting, and so I was able to try out some of their newer products at the Blue Mercury store in addition to that. And I am feeling a lot more optimistic about this line. They still are quite expensive, but I am feeling that they are much more desirable in terms of how they are performing for me, and that they are things that actually I think have potential. So I wanted to talk to you about some of these. So first of all, there is a new tinted moisturizer that is reformulated from the earlier one. So it is still called Just Skin. It is still SPF15, so it's providing a very small amount of SPF to the skin. And it is really a mineral sunscreen. It doesn't have any chemical sunscreens or sunscreen boosters in it. And they reformulated it to take out a few ingredients, including the cyclic silicones and the talc. And I had never tried the old version, but I did try this one, and I'm actually pretty pleased with how it has been performing for me. And so therefore I decided to try a few more products from this line. So they have a new line of a blush and bronzer and lip tints that are called the Sunstone edition. So in this line I have one of these new little blushes, and I also have one of the lip tints from this line, and I've actually been really liking these products as well. So I thought that I would do this video talking about these products, and then I thought that I would talk about some of the other products that I have used, some of which have been okay for me and others that have been more problematic. So in particular, I have two other foundations from Chantecaille that I have actually think have some potential, at least for some people. So this one is called the Future Skin Gel Foundation, and I've used up most of this jar actually, so this one has been okay for me. So I will talk to you about that one. And then more recently I got this Cushion Foundation, which is even more expensive, and so I think that anyone that is considering buying this very expensive foundation may be interested in other people's experiences with it, so I want to share that with you. And then I also have a few lip products from them that I have tried in the past, and a few other products, and so I will discuss all of those. So first, a little bit of information about me. I am 59 years old, and I have dry and quite sensitive skin, and I have never had any kind of cosmetic procedures like injections or surgery, and I'm not really very interested in having those kinds of things done to my face. But I would like to look a little bit fresher, or maybe even a little bit younger as I get older. And so in terms of foundations in particular, I am particularly concerned about whether the foundations actually settle into the wrinkles that I have and make them look worse. And so a brand like Chantecaille, which seems to be targeted towards older women, seems to have some potential in terms of helping me with those particular kinds of issues, or at least you would think that they should, considering how expensive the products are. And over the past 3 years, I have tried out more than 1,000 makeup products. And another thing that I have learned is that there are certain ingredients that always do irritate my very sensitive skin. And I know that these ingredients are problematic for many other people as well. So I just don't talk about products that contain these ingredients on this channel. So let's talk a little bit about Chantecaille in general, and then I will go on and discuss the different products. So Chantecaille was founded by a veteran of the cosmetics industry named Sylvie Chantecaille. And originally, one of the things that she worked on was to help her friend Diane von Furstenberg to launch a line of perfumes. She had some experience in the cosmetic industry and perfume industry before that. And they launched a few different perfumes, including one brand that was called Tatiana, which was very, very popular, I think, in the late 1970s, early 1980s. And then after that, she went to work for Estee Lauder, and she was one of the main people that put together a brand that was called Prescriptives. So this is a brand that had a very popular fragrance that was called Calyx, and it also had a line of a whole bunch of different foundations. So this was a foundation line that was way ahead of its time in terms of it not only having a lot of foundation shades available, but also in allowing people to have their own foundations custom mixed, I believe. And that line now lasted for a while, and I think that it did get a lot of positive reviews, but that does not seem to be something that Estee Lauder is currently offering. And then in 1998, Sylvie Chantecaille decided to start her own luxury beauty company, offering first perfumes and then branching out into a lot of makeup and skincare products at very luxury price points. And this is kind of a family company in that a lot of her family members do work for the company. And this apparently is officially based in France, but my feeling is that it's actually more like a traditional luxury cosmetics company. And I'm not sure that it's actually even really targeted very much to people in France. I think it's more targeted towards people in the US that find it to be appealing that it has this French connection to it. And then in 2022, the company was sold to a large German conglomerate that is called Beiersdorf. And this sale was for about $500 million. So this company, Beiersdorf, is a conglomerate with kind of an odd mix, in my opinion, of different kinds of companies. So they have a couple of skincare companies that are more like drugstore brands, including Eucerin and Nivea, and they own Coppertone. And they own a bandage company and a tattoo care brand and a few other assorted different companies that are in the makeup skincare type of a business. And then in terms of the luxury business, they just own La Prairie and Chantecaille. Now, the thing that I have always found frustrating about Chantecaille is that on the surface, they seem to be claiming that they were a brand that used a lot of natural ingredients and that really cared about the environment and that they are supporting wildlife. And all of these things seem to be good. But if you look at the ingredient list for their products, as far as I was concerned, they were including a lot of ingredients that I really considered to be problematic. And especially even now, and they are offering some products that contain, for instance, Teflon. And Teflon is something that I think that even most mainstream companies have really phased out. One of the first products that I bought from this company was an eyeliner, and it irritated the heck out of my eyes, and I had to look up what all the ingredients were in the product. I didn't know nearly as much about ingredients as I did now, and one of those did have Teflon in them. And what I was really surprised at when I looked at all of their ingredient lists for all of their products the other day is that they are still selling that eyeliner, and they're also still selling a powder that is supposed to be talc-free, but that actually also has a Teflon in it. And I find it hard to believe that people would be really interested in a talc-free powder but think it's okay to put Teflon in things. And I think that if people do think that's okay, it's probably because they don't know that Teflon is in there. And then some of their other products that they are still currently selling, some of them do have aluminum powder in them. Some of them do have a variety of chemical sunscreens in them. And a lot of them have other ingredients that I also find to be somewhat problematic. And they are using talc in a number of the products. And I don't necessarily consider that to be a deal killer for me. But again, I'm not sure that most people would be considering this to be a product that is associated with a company that is implying that they are a clean beauty type of a company. And in addition to that eye pencil, another product that I purchased in the past that I would consider to be a real failure for me was an eyebrow pencil. And in that case, I thought that the eyebrow pencil didn't perform all that well compared to even other straightforward eyebrow pencils that I had purchased. And then almost immediately after that, the eyebrow pencil, it was one of those twist-up ones, just fell out of the container, and then eventually I ended up losing that. So I was kind of disappointed by that. that, and I really think that if you're paying prices that are this high for a product, that it should be performing better. So because I've been doing well with these recent releases and because I was planning to do this video, I did go through the list of all of the products that Chantecaille is currently offering again to see what percentage of them might be worth trying for me in the future. And apart from the foundations, which I do think have some potential and might be worth considering for some people that do have sensitive skin, I do feel like almost all of these products have ingredients in them that are problematic. And then until about the past 6 months or a year or so ago, they really were continuing to release products with problematic ingredients. But things do seem to be changing there, whether that's because they are purchased by this German company or because they've made a few decisions based on having new management or just looking at the market. Whatever the reason is, I am really happy to see that things do seem to be changing there, because maybe in the future they will do what NARS is doing and start to introduce some better products and then gradually pull these bad products, bad in my opinion anyway, from the market. So let's talk first about these foundations that Chantecaille has been offering for a while, and then I will talk about the more recent releases. So the product from them that I have used the most so far is this product, which is called the Future Skin Gel Foundation, and I think that this one was released more than a decade ago. I think it might have been like 2013, something like that. And again, this is a foundation that is made in Japan. It comes in this plastic jar, which I think is kind of inappropriate considering that this is a very, very expensive foundation. So when I purchased this was by far the most expensive foundation that I have ever purchased. And since then, the price has gone up, and I think it's priced at about $90 now. So that's a very, very expensive foundation. But I do really like it quite a bit, and that surprised me also because it does have some ingredients in it that I thought might be problematic. So this one does have some cyclic silicones in it, it does have some talc in it, and it does have some preservatives in it that, although I don't consider them to be deal killers in every product that I use, that depending, I guess, on the amount that's in the product, particularly if it's in a foundation or a skincare product, those seem like they have some potential to be irritating for my skin. So particularly the preservative chlorphenicin and also the phenoxyethanol. And in general, I was a little bit skeptical about this product when I purchased it, but I was really happy that it actually worked really well for my skin. And I don't feel that it has been irritating at all. So that was a really pleasant surprise. So this is one of their best-selling products, and it periodically will get some good media coverage from various people who use it and say that it gives a particularly elegant look on camera. So I remember, for instance, a year or two ago, The Crown brought this up as being the foundation that they used for their TV series. And in general, I think that this is a very wearable product, and I actually have a shade in this that I think is probably not correct for me. It is called Chamomile, and it's a little bit too yellow for my skin. But what I have found is when I put this on my skin, it actually seems to go on so nicely that it just kind of melds with my skin. And even though the color is not exactly right, it actually does look really pretty. So it's called a gel foundation, and I think that it may be that in addition to not having any oils in it, it tends to have a base that's a little bit more clear than is the case with many other foundations. So generally, if I have a foundation that I put on and it's offering a fair amount of coverage and it's not exactly matching my skin, then it will look really wrong. And in this one, it does seem to meld into my skin, and so I think that that base is a little bit clearer than is the case with many other foundations. So when I put this on, it just kind of makes it all look kind of natural, and my skin looks a little bit more tan when I have it on because of that yellow, but I don't think it looks bad. So I think that's kind of an accomplishment. And there are only 15 shades in this, which is would usually be considered to be a really limited shade range, and admittedly most of those are for people with lighter skin tones. There are a few for people with with darker skin tones. But in general, I do think that there's a fair amount of flexibility in terms of this particular foundation working for more people than you might think. Now, as I say, this foundation does not have any oil in it. It is a gel-based foundation. And I think that even though it probably makes it more appropriate for people that have oilier skin, I feel like on my dry skin it has been perfectly fine. I do put some kind of a moisturizer or a moisturizing primer underneath it. So this is a silicone foundation, and what I generally point out on this channel when I bring up any kind of silicone foundation is that although I don't think that my skin is specifically irritated by the silicone, I do think that the use of a silicone foundation can be irritating for my skin eventually, not because of the silicone itself, but because when I use a product like that, it tends to trap things like dirt and oil and dead skin cells and fungi underneath it, and that those things can be irritating to my skin. And that is especially the case if I wear a foundation like that on a regular basis, or if I do not manage to get it all off of my skin at the end of the day because it sticks to it too well. So in this case, I don't feel like this is really a waterproof foundation. I do feel like if I use a pretty good oil-based type cleanser of whatever sort, that this does come off fairly readily. And in terms of the silicone foundations that I have, I actually do really like this one quite a bit. So at one point, maybe about a year ago, I did a video where I talked about my favorite silicone foundations, and I called it something like the prettiest foundation, something like that. And the four that I brought up were the one from House Labs, the one from Lisa Eldridge, the one from Pat McGrath, and then this one. And I think of all of these as kind of being in the same category. I do think that they all go on my skin quite in a very thin layer. I do think that they look very pretty. I don't think that any of these exacerbate the look of my wrinkles. They have a pretty good staying power, but they are not ones that will be very, very difficult to remove. I actually do feel like I can get these off at the end of the day, and that my skin has done okay with all of them. And so I have used quite a lot of this product. Now, I did share a little bit of this with my friend, but I have used up maybe 2/3 of this container, which is a lot more than I usually use up with regard to any of my foundations. I don't even wear any kind of a liquid foundation on a daily basis, much less the same one every day, and much less a silicone foundation. So I have liked this one quite a lot, and this has been about 3 years since I purchased it, I think, almost 3 years, and it still seems to be holding up fine. Again, it's a color that's not right for me, but I don't feel like the color has changed. I don't think it's oxidized since I got it, and I think that this is a product that I am still willing to use. And at some point, I would likely buy a new bottle of this, and I'll try to get a different shade when I do that. But in general, I think this is a product that I am still continuing to be willing to use, which is a little bit unusual for me. Usually, I try foundations on camera, and then I'm usually, for most of them, not very interested in using them at all. So all of that is a little bit surprising because there have been so few other products from Chantecaille that I have been really enthusiastic about. But as I say, these foundations, they come from some Japanese company. I don't know which Japanese factory that is from, but I don't think that any of the other Chantecaille products that I have been able to find out about actually do come from that Japanese factory. So I think that they just managed to get a really good relationship with one of the Japanese factories, and that the factory is making a lot of other really good products. I'd like to find out who that factory is and what else they're making, because whatever it is that this particular factory is making, I would like to give those products a try. Now, in terms of the coverage for this product, I really don't ever want anything more than is medium coverage, and I think that that's pretty much what this particular foundation is giving me. They are suggesting that you can build it up to medium to full coverage, and I guess it depends on what your definition of full coverage is. If you're looking at something like Fenty, which says that their new soft lit foundation is medium coverage, I would say that that's more like what I consider to be a full coverage, and that probably if you want to get that much coverage from this product, you'd have to really build it up quite a lot. But I think that in terms of covering most of the issues that I think most people would be expecting to cover with the medium foundation. I think this is doing a very, very nice job of it, and in my case at least, without doing any major exacerbation of the wrinkles on my face, which is a really positive thing. Now, in this footage for each of these products, I did add a little bit of extra makeup items at the end, just so you can see a little bit more about what this would look like in a full makeup look. And I was kind of in the mood on that day to put on some blue eyeshadow, I guess, because all three of the looks that I will be showing you do have some blue eyeshadow in them. So for this particular look, I happen to have out my Lisa Eldridge eyeshadow palette that is called Sorcery, and this has a little bit of an assortment of brighter type and more dramatic type shades. And so I really just for this look used this blue one here, and I think that this is a really kind of a gorgeous color, and I think that even if I just use that on its own, it really makes a look that's very pretty and quite wearable, a lot more wearable than if I had tried to mix it with a whole bunch of other different colors from this palette. That one is called Swan Song, and this palette is available, and then they also, I think it's also right now available, this blue shade, as an individual eyeshadow that you can either pop into a different Lisa Eldridge palette, or that you can just put in like a metal eyeshadow palette container and use it that way. And I do think it's a pretty color. And then also made in Japan and sold under the Future Skin name is a product that is called the Future Skin Cushion Foundation. And this one is even more expensive. So I managed to get it for maybe $100 on a good sale before the price went up. And now it's something like $145. Now you do for that price get two cushions. So one of them is in this little bag. So that is an even more outrageous price for a foundation. But I have been happy enough with the Future Skin Gel Foundation that I thought that I really wanted to give this a try and then to be able to talk about it. And it also is the case that when I have done the quiz on the Chantecaille website, where it asks you a bunch of questions and then it recommends to you which foundation you might want to choose and which also shades you might want to use, generally that quiz does recommend to me this cushion foundation. And so I started to think, well, maybe I'm really missing out on something by not trying it, and so therefore I should give it a try. So I had never tried any kind of a cushion foundation before. I wasn't even sure what that was. And so it was interesting to actually try this out. So this cushion comes in this little compact, which does have this cute elephant on the top. So that's a little bit of a bonus. And so you open this up like this, and then it has this sponge-like cushion on it, which is used for the application. And then you open this piece of plastic up, and then it has a sponge in here that is saturated with a sort of a water-based foundation, and it's actually quite watery, I realized. And so what you do is you take this sponge type of an applicator and you press it in here, and then you can just brush it on your skin. And it is very thin. It's a very, very thin product because I believe that it's mostly water. And I think that when I actually have tried removing this or touching this sponge and seeing this product, it actually seems to be much more watery than most of the tinted moisturizers that I have used, actually. So this is all very interesting to me because at first I'm like, well, how can something that is this watery actually be doing anything in terms of giving me any coverage? And this obviously is going on very sheer, but maybe that's because it's really not offering me any really significant benefits. But it did turn out to be the case that I think that even more so than that gel foundation, that when I put this on my skin, that it is offering a fair amount of coverage, but it has such a clear base and it is so thin that it really doesn't look very much like I'm wearing foundation at all. And I think that both this one and also the gel foundation, they're offering a very elegant type of a look. So it looks basically like my skin has been perfected, but not really like I am wearing foundation at all. And I think that if I compare these even to some of the other foundations that I have liked, such as the House Lab one, which is from Korea, or the Lisa Eldridge one, or that Pat McGrath one, I think that this one especially, and also the gel foundation, they're both very, very thin, and they both do give me that really elegant, refined, sophisticated look that does not draw attention to the fact that I'm actually wearing a foundation, which I think is really impressive. Now, I would say that the only other product that I have used on my face that I think does a better job of that is when I have used the Chanel concealer in the little pot, which is called Sublimage. And I have taken just a tiny little bit of that concealer and I have mixed it with a moisturizer such as the Day Moisturizer from the Outset, and then used that as a foundation. And I think that when I have done that, I'm getting something that is very, very close to what I am getting from this cushion foundation from Chantecaille. And I think that just in terms of the look of that product, I actually like that one more even than this one. But I think that in both cases, you're getting a really quite refined look that is a lot different than you are getting from really any other foundation on the market that I've tried. Now, in terms of the ingredients for this one, I feel like when I looked at the ingredient list that the ingredients were almost the same as the Future Gel foundation, and so I had a fair amount of confidence that I would be able to wear this one. And when I bought it a number of months ago on sale, I actually just kind of put it aside, and I thought eventually I'll do a Chantecaille video, and then I will get that out and try that for the first time. And as it turns out, that was a bit of a mistake, because the return window has closed, and it did turn out to be the case that this has been really irritating for my face. And the first time that I put it on, it was a little bit irritating, and then since then I've attempted to wear it several other times, and my face seems to be becoming more and more irritated by this product each time I have tried it. And so therefore I have really given up on it. And usually if something is irritating for me, if I put it on over a primer of some kind, that will usually resolve it. But in this case, I don't feel like the primers that I've been using have been helping at all. So for instance, I tried the Ilia Base Face Milk, which has worked for me as a good primer with a variety of different products. But in this case, that hardly seemed to do anything in terms of stopping my face from itching as soon as I put this stuff on. And the Jane Iredale Hydra Pure, I tried that one, and that one also didn't stop the issue. So that has been a really a little bit puzzling, but also I do have some hypotheses about that. So if I look at the ingredient list for these products, there are 2 ingredients that are in this one that have the potential of being suspect that are not present in the Future Skin Gel Foundation. So one of those is alumina, and that is a form of alumina that is generally considered to be very large molecules, and therefore that do not penetrate the skin. And I don't think that I have ever experienced any problems with alumina in other products, even eye products really. So I'm a little suspicious as to whether that could be the case. And then the other thing that they have in this is a particular sea ingredient that is called elkhorn sea moss, and that is sort of like an algae. So there are different kinds of algae that can be used in different kinds of cosmetic products. So in this case, the elkhorn sea moss is being used in this particular product, and then there is another algae that is being used in the Future Skin Gel Foundation. That is a brown algae. And the thing that I think about algae is that I don't think that these algae that are being used in skincare products or foundation products are in themselves bad. I think that they're probably quite good, and that's why they're putting them in there. But the problem is that anytime you have an ingredient that comes from the sea like that, then there is the potential for contamination. And in some cases, it's known that the contamination can be things like heavy metals. But it also can be the case, and I think it is the case, that in some circumstances the contamination may be cyanotoxins, which come from cyanobacteria or diatoms, and those can be particularly toxic in terms of the chemical that they make. And in particular, for me, I actually have a history of mold illness, and so I tend to be particularly sensitive to both mold, such as the mold I think that is in the Ritual Defeat Foundation, or mold toxins, or I think also the case that I'm very sensitive to cyanotoxins. And it might be the case, if I didn't have this channel, that I would just totally give up on all products that have any kind of algae in them, because I think that there's a lot of inconsistency, and that even if you have a good source for this algae, that in some cases it might be contaminated with these toxins, and in other cases it might not be. And so when I look at the ingredient list for this particular cushion foundation, the fact that it does have this algae in it, I think that that could be the reason that I am reacting to this, even though I'm not seeing that there's anything else in here that looks like it should be really problematic or that is really different than is in that gel foundation. And I am not really convinced that brown seaweed is any more safe in terms of not having cyanotoxin in it than elkhorn sea moss. I think that there's probably just a random element in this. And so therefore I think that probably in general, if you spend $145 on a foundation, you should probably open the box right away and try it out and see if it bothers you. And if it does, that you should get in touch with the company and get them to give you a refund. The other reason that I think that it might be an algae toxin that is an issue for me rather than something else is because in general, algae toxins are very, very tiny. So the cyanobacteria that would make those toxins, you can filter those out. But the toxins themselves, both mold toxins and cyanotoxins, they are both extremely small particles, just a little bit bigger than nanoparticles, I think. And therefore, it is generally the case that you can't filter them out, for instance, of the water supply, and you certainly can't filter them out by putting a layer of plastic foundation on your face or a plastic primer or any kind of primer, really. Those holes are much too big. So the fact that my usual primer solution did not seem to be providing any protection at all from whatever is the issue in this cushion foundation, again, does make me suspect that it might be an algae toxin issue, but I don't have any evidence of that. That's just my guess. So I think that this is a really lovely foundation, except for the fact that it did irritate my skin. I actually think that if my skin were not irritated by that, that this would be probably my favorite foundation at this point, my favorite special occasion type of a foundation, and that I would probably wear it fairly often. And so therefore it's disappointing to me that the more that I have worn this, the more sensitized my skin does seem to be getting to it. And I am not saying that other people should not buy this product because of that. I think that, first of all, not every batch of this may have that same toxin in it, even if that is what it is. And secondly, I doubt that most people, even that are watching this channel, are going to be as sensitized to particular algae toxins as I am. And so I think this is a really lovely foundation other than that. And so I don't think that people should not use this product because it might be contaminated, but I do think that it might be a good idea to open the container as soon as you bring it home from the store or as soon as it comes in the mail, and to see if it is irritating for you. And if it is, then to let the company know about that. So by the way, in the footage for this cushion foundation, I am using a couple of the eyeshadow sticks from Victoria Beckham. So I have one that is a blue color, which is called Cornflower, and then I have one that is kind of a yellow gold color that is called Sunflower, and I decided to just kind of throw both of these on because I thought that they might kind of match the shirt that I was wearing that day. And I do think that this is kind of a fun summer look with them together. I wouldn't have usually thought of putting a blue and a yellow like this together, but I am using them fairly lightly on my eyes, and I'm using this blue one more as like an eyeliner, and I think that they look cute together. Now, I will warn you about these Victoria Beckham eye pencils because I don't think that the quality of these is all that great in terms of their durability. So the first ones that I got, I thought that they were all really terrific and I was really excited about them. A few months after that, I got one in the color Trench, which is just a kind of a beige color. And that one I only wore it a couple times, and then it just kind of totally fell apart. It fell out of the container, and then it fell into 3 different pieces, and it was pretty much unusable after that. So I thought that was kind of a fluke, and I just kind of ignored it. And then when Victoria Beckham released a few more eyeshadow stick colors, I ordered all 3 of those. One is Mushroom, one was a pink color called Ballet, and one was this blue color. And of those, 2 out of those 3 sticks fell right out of the container and were basically unusable to me. And one of them actually fell right on the toilet, so I really didn't want to use that one. And Victoria Beckham did give me replacements for those, and the replacements have been okay. But I have never had anything like that happen with, for instance, the Laura Mercier sticks, and so I am just wondering about their quality control on these. So I do think that I would be a little bit wary about these products, even though I do still really like the way that they perform when they are not broken. Now, also in the video footage for this look, I am using a couple of other Chantecaille products. These are lip products that I purchased in the past. One of these is the Chantecaille Lip Liner, and I have this in one of the more neutral colors that they offer. And I think that this has been an okay lip liner, and I haven't experienced any problems with that, and the ingredient list looks fine to me. I think that it's a little bit expensive, and I think that the performance has been more sort of on the average side. I did do a video when I was reviewing some of the new Jones Road lip pencils, maybe a year or so ago, where I went through all of the lip pencils in my collection. I think there are 20 or 25 of them, and I tried them all on camera, and I thought that the Chantecaille one was better than some of them, and at least it wasn't causing irritation, and it seems to have performed well. But I think that there are better choices, and my favorite lip liners have continued to be the Chanel ones. I think the Chanel ones are super nice, although they are $35. And I also am a big fan of the Mob Beauty 1990 lip liners, which are a recreation of the original Max Spice lip liners. And Mob is supposed to be releasing some more colors of that lip liner. And I do like that formula, so I'm looking forward to seeing more colors from Mob. And then also in this look, I am using their Lip Veil product. So the Lip Veil does not include any flavor or any fragrance in it at all. So that is why I decided to try this particular lip product from them. And I have a more of a neutral shade that is called Honey Pot. And this has actually been a very nice lipstick. I have not found it to be irritating. I've found that it performs quite well. And I think that it does come in a number of different colors that I would be interested in. This is a very, very expensive lipstick. I think it's like $52 now or something. And so that makes me a little hesitant to buy more of them because I think that as lipsticks go, there are a few that I would prefer. I really like the Lisa Eldridge, especially the Luxuriously Lucent formula. And I also really like the Armani lipstick. And so I think that the idea of buying a bunch of these lipsticks when they are so much more expensive than the lipsticks that I like better hasn't made a lot of sense to me. But I would not discourage you from buying this lipstick other than the price because I have enjoyed using it, this one that I have. And this lipstick does have a picture of some elephants on it. I guess that means that these lipsticks are that if you buy them, there's a small donation that is made towards helping elephants in the wild, which I think is a nice thing, but I don't know that I need to be giving money to Chantecaille so that they can give it to elephants. I feel like if customers want to give money to elephant preservation, maybe they could just do that directly. But in any case, I think that they're nice lipsticks, but they are quite expensive. Now let's talk about the reformulation of this tinted moisturizer, and this is still called Just Skin, and it is still SPF 15 for most of the shades. Now the darkest shades of these, they do not have any SPF in them because I guess that if you put a mineral SPF in a really dark shade, that's going to make it look a lot more chalky, and so they just left the SPF out of the darkest shades of this product. But other than that, in terms of how it has changed since the old version was available apparently in a much larger tube, so something like 1.8 ounces, something like that. And this is just 1 ounce, and the price is a little bit less than it used to be. So I think it used to be something like $85, and this is $70. So if you're a really big fan of this and you go through it because you are using it as a mild sunscreen or an everyday foundation, then you might be a little bit unhappy about that because it's definitely going to be costing you more on a per gram basis. But if you have never tried it before, then $70 is a more accessible price point to try it for the first time. And what I would like to suggest is that if there is a Blue Mercury store near you, then it may be the case that they will have samples of all of these different kinds of products that they could give to you. And so that might be a more safer way to go and try these products before spending a lot of money on them rather than ordering them and then being unhappy with them. So like the other two foundations that I just talked about, this product did used to have cyclic silicones in it, and it did used to have talc in it, and they have removed both of those types of ingredients from this product. And what they are saying on the website is that it doesn't have any microplastics or parabens or fragrance in it, and I do think that's true. So that is another thing that I should probably point out about Chantecaille, is that until very recently, not only have the products almost all had ingredients in them that I think have the potential of being irritating, but they also almost all have silicones and or plastics in them. So plastics, for instance, they're often on the label as something like polyethylene or nylon, and then anything that has cone on the end of it tends to be a silicone. And so therefore, in terms of environmental issues, it's probably not a great thing to be dumping all of that plastic stuff into the environment because it probably won't break down. Now this does still include a couple of silicones in it. It includes dimethicone, and it also includes trimethicones on the label, so it's not entirely silicone free, but they did remove the cyclic silicones, and some people say that that is an improvement. And the cyclic silicones would make it ineligible to be sold, for instance, at Credo. Now, in terms of looking further at the ingredient list, what I do see on this ingredient list is that this one includes both alumina and also elkhorn sea moss. So those were my suspect ingredients with regard to why that cushion foundation might be causing me problems. And so therefore, if that is the case, then it is conceivable that this product might also have just as much potential to be causing problems, because maybe that elkhorn sea moss is sometimes problematic for me and sometimes it's not, depending on the contamination of it. That is my theory, and I think that it would be interesting to try this again over time to see if it ever does irritate my face. But in this case, I really haven't found this tube to be problematic for me at all, and I have used it quite frequently, and I've been able to use it all day, and I don't think I've experienced any irritation from this one. And as I said, I don't think I've experienced any irritation from the Future Skin Gel Foundation either. And in terms of the performance, You know, if I'm looking for a performance that is like the gel foundation or the cushion foundation in terms of it being really thin and really elegant and really gorgeous and not looking like I have a foundation on at all and looking like I just have a more perfect skin, I think that this is not meeting those criteria nearly as much. I think that those are definitely more refined looking and elegant looking, and especially if I'm looking to look really nice for a particular occasion, that those are really good choices for me anyway, with my particular type of skin and without a lot of problems on my skin that I'm trying to cover up. But I do think that compared to all of the tinted moisturizers with any kind of SPF in that I have used, that this one is actually very, very nice. And that is the one that I am wearing today. And unfortunately, when I shoot these videos in the summer, I have to turn my air conditioning off because otherwise you get all that air conditioning noise in the background. So then I tend to get really warm and then I tend to start sweating. And I think that despite the fact that that is happening now, that this foundation is actually holding up pretty well. And I think it's looking fairly good on me. And I think that that is always the case. I've worn it a lot when I have been outside exercising in the heat and sweating. And I think that by the time that I get back, it still is usually looking quite good on me. It's usually still continuing to give me some coverage. And I don't feel like it's giving me the feeling that my skin is covered with saran wrap and that I'm not able to sweat normally. I do feel like I'm able to sweat pretty well with this. It is obviously a silicone foundation, but I don't think it's one of those that is not allowing my face to quote unquote breathe normally. I think that it's actually working really well for me. So I think it's providing a very nice balance of offering a small amount of SPF, which is always a nice little bonus if it's not going to be irritating my skin, and also looking nice and also holding up well, but being appropriate for me to do some exercise and to just go about my normal hot day that is not necessarily going to lend itself to be working very well with a lot of the different foundations that I've tried. So of course everything at Chantecaille is on the pricey side, and for a tinted moisturizer that is just offering light to light medium type of coverage for me, and I think that this is actually quite a nice product. And I think it is one that is not nearly as expensive as, for instance, the Cushion Foundation. And I think it's one that I actually feel like I will be able to continue to get some wear out of, and that I actually probably will wear from time to time as the months go on in the future. So again, with this foundation, especially because it has that algae on the ingredient list, I would suggest that if you're going to buy it, even if you have bought it in the past, that you give it a try as soon as you buy it to make sure that it is not irritating to your skin. But for me, I think that at least this tube, I will be getting some good use out of it. And so I am really happy that I have found another product that does have some SPF in it that is working for me and that is not irritating my skin. And then for the blue eyeshadow for this particular makeup look, the ones that I used were the cream clay shadows from Ma Beauty. So there's one that's a taupe color, and then there's one that's a new color that's described as a black denim. So it looks pretty dark if I put it on very thickly, but if I shear it down, then you do get a little bit of that blue color. So now I want to talk about the Sunstone collection that Chantecaille recently introduced. So every year Chantecaille introduces a couple of limited edition collections that do tend to get quite a bit of attention. Now for this collection of blushes and their bronzer this year, I think that they're somewhat similar to the types of powder highlighters and bronzers and blushes that they have had in the past, but I think that they have improved the ingredient list on these, and I don't see any ingredients on this one that I'm concerned about, and I haven't found this to be irritating to my face at all. And I do think that this color that I have, which is kind of a peach color with just a little bit of a shimmer in it, that it is very pretty. I think that I still might like my RMS blushes better. And the formula is quite different. I think that this formula is a little bit more densely packed. It doesn't go on as softly. So I do feel like it's better if you take a dense brush to put this onto the cheeks rather than trying to use a typical blush brush. I don't think that that will work very well. And I do think that this peach color in particular is super pretty on my cheeks, so I have been happy about that. It does have just a little bit of a shimmer in it, but it's really not too much. And from what I can tell, I think that the bronzer also looks very nice. It is a slightly shimmery bronzer, and so that would be one that I would probably just use on my cheeks. I don't think I would try to use it on other parts of my face. But I think that the color looks like it might be fairly flexible, but I really would like to see a bronzer like that in person before purchasing it. So maybe I can take a look at it at Blue Mercury at some point. But the formula for this one does look pretty much exactly like the blush formula, and so I would expect it to perform in the same way. And in general, although I think that these are sort of special makeup in terms of especially this flower embossing on there, I do think that the price is so high that it's kind of hard to justify this, except if you were thinking of it as a special little treat. And this plastic packaging, you know, it's a little bit pretty in terms of the design, but it still is plastic, and so that makes me not that crazy about it. And the blush that they are offering is available in 2 shades. So the one that I have, the peach shade, is called Energy, and then there is a pink shade that's kind of like a rosy pink, and that one is called Confidence. And then in addition to the blush and the bronzer, they are also offering 3 shades of a little lip balm, and that made me remember that a couple of years ago I did buy a little lip balm from Chantecaille. So this product, which I ordered a couple of years ago, this is a shade called Beach Rose, and I purchased this. It was like $34, and I thought that for Chantecaille that was not too expensive. But what I realized after I purchased it is that this is a very, very small product. It only has about 1/3 the size of a normal lipstick, and that makes it 3 times as expensive in terms of cost per gram as a Lisa Eldridge lipstick, which is kind of on the crazy side. Now this is a nice little metal tube, so that part is kind of good. And I did really like the product, and I was especially happy by how it tasted. It doesn't have any added flavor. It does taste good to me. I do feel like it was moisturizing and that it looked nice on my lips, but it still seems to be really, really expensive. But eventually, especially after I felt like this was not something that Chantecaille was offering anymore and that I probably wasn't going to need to talk about it on camera, I just put this in my little tiny purse. And so almost always when I am out and about, I just have this tiny little purse that I carry around with me, which I just keep credit cards and my checkbook and some cash in it. And then it has a very, very small amount of room that I really don't have enough room to put a full-size lipstick in there. But I do like this because I can use it over my shoulder, and it has this, it's a Coach bag, and it has this little Keith Haring drawing on it that I think is really kind of cute. It's kind of like the purse that a 10-year-old girl would wear, but I kind of like it. And ever since I have been doing that, I have realized that I really, really like this little lip balm a lot, and that it has held up really well for me, even though I've been carrying it around with me all of the time, including in really hot weather, for more than a year. It still tastes really good to me. It has not melted, and I think that when I do get out this little tube, it just feels like a slightly special little event, a lot better than putting on some kind of a cheap lipstick, and that it always does look nice, and that it has lasted a lot longer than I would have anticipated. So even though this is a quite expensive product for the amount of product that you are getting, I still feel like I have become a fan of these little lip balms. And so therefore, when I saw that they released some new colors, I decided that it was time to buy another one, and that I probably would have gone ahead and done that even if I didn't have this channel, just because I do like that particular product. And I think that fairly soon I will be running out of this one, even though it has lasted a lot longer than I would think. And so the three shades that they have in this one, there is one that is called Optimism, which they are calling a sheer plum, but if you read the user reviews, they are saying that that's more like a pink shade. And then there's one that's Empower, which appears to be a little bit brown. They're calling that a sheer mocha. And then the one that I bought is called Enthusiasm, and this one is described as a sheer raspberry, but I think it's more just like a slightly dark pink. And I did notice that after only a few uses, it did get this little chip out of the very top of it. But I think that that same thing happened to the one that I bought a couple of years ago at the very beginning, and that does not seem to have prevented me from using it effectively or from it lasting for a long period of time. So I've decided not to worry about that too much. But in general, I think that this ingredient list is slightly different than the old ingredient list, but I think it looks pretty much almost exactly the same. And I think that as far as I can tell, the formula does seem to be the same. And so I do feel enthusiastic about having bought another one of these, and I think that probably I will just continue to have this be my purse lipstick. So thank you very much for watching all the way to the end of the video. And I would be interested in knowing if, based on what you know of the company, whether you would be interested in trying any of the Chantecaille products, and if so, which ones. Or if you already have tried any products from Chantecaille, then I would like to know what your experiences with those have been. And then in addition, if you haven't subscribed yet to the channel, then I hope you will go ahead and do that. And Coco and I love you very much. And now I can go turn on the air conditioning, and so both he and I will be in a much better mood after that. And so thank you all very much for watching. Goodbye. La ba da la 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 bum